Last of the Summer Wine charmed millions with its gentle humor and memorable characters set against the peaceful backdrop of the Yorkshire countryside. But behind that cozy glow were chilling deaths, horrifying accidents, and mysterious illnesses that claimed the lives of its stars in the shadows. Let's uncover the fates of this legendary cast and honor what they left behind for us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's go. Peter Salis as Norman Clegg. Peter John Salis was born on February 1, 1921 in Twickenham, England. When he was 52 years old, he began portraying Norman Clegg in the iconic television series Last of the Summer Wine, 1973 to 2010. With his calm, wise demeanor, Clegg became the voice of reason amid the group's ridiculous antics, making audiences across Britain feel as though they'd known him their whole lives. But behind that kind, gentle image was a life marked by personal pain and loss. Peter's marriage to actress Elaine Usher began with a dream wedding in 1957, but quickly turned into a nightmare. Elaine left him 16 times. Fights, jealousy, and betrayals left their marriage deeply fractured. Though they divorced in 1965, they continued living together for 34 more years, as if they couldn't let go, yet couldn't fully heal either. Peter later admitted that losing Elaine in 2014 was the greatest shock of his life, saying he felt, "A part of me was torn away." In his final years, he was diagnosed with macular degeneration, a condition that slowly robbed him of his sight, making it impossible to read scripts and forcing him to use a special typewriter to keep working. As one by one his co-stars passed away, especially his close friend Bill Owen, Peter became the last man standing from a generation of British comedy legends. Loneliness settled in as he spent his final days in a care home, quietly fading like his character Clegg. On June 2, 2017, Peter Salis died in his sleep at Denville Hall. He was 96 years old. He was buried beside Bill Owen in Yorkshire. His net worth was estimated at around $10 million, not from blockbuster roles, but from hundreds of supporting parts, the voice of Wallace, and a lifelong love for his craft that never dimmed. Bill Owen as William Compo Simonite. William John Owen Rowbotham, better known by his stage name Bill Owen, was born on March 14, 1914, in London. When he was 59 years old, he took on the role of William Compo Simonite in Last of the Summer Wine, a scruffy, goofy man infatuated with Nora Batty, always caught in laughable misadventures. For 26 years, Compo became the face of the world's longest-running sitcom, and Owen, with his trademark wool cap, became a beloved figure on British television. But behind the laughter was a rough and winding road. During World War II, Owen was injured in a training explosion. The wounds scarred not just his body, but haunted his mind for decades. His career struggled through the 1940s to 60s, with theater critics dismissing him as too rough, too common. It wasn't until old age that he finally found the spotlight. For years, torn between art and survival, he even considered quitting acting altogether. Politics brought major tension to the set. A staunch socialist and active Labour Party member, Owen often clashed fiercely with right-wing co-star Michael Bates. At one point, production nearly halted because they refused to face each other. Still, Owen remained a consummate professional, choosing to win not through argument but through dedication. In 1999, while filming a special episode in France, Owen began experiencing severe stomach pain. Back in England, he was diagnosed with pancreatic and bowel cancer, two devastating illnesses that slowly drained his strength. Even so, he pressed on, determined to finish his role as Compo until the very end. Bill Owen died on July 12, 1999, in Westminster. He was 85 years old. He was buried at St. John's Churchyard in Holmfirth. Longtime co-star Peter Salis was later laid to rest beside him, as if reuniting for one last adventure. Owen's net worth at the time of his death was approximately £1 million, a modest figure compared to the artistic legacy he left behind. Kathy Staff as Nora Batty. Kathy Staff, born Minnie Higginbottom, was born on July 12, 1928. When she was 45 years old, she became Nora Batty, the stern woman with a tight bun, checkered skirt, wrinkled stockings, and a broom always ready to chase Compo in Last of the Summer Wine, which aired from 1973 to 2008. Nora wasn't just a character. She was an icon of toughness, peculiarity, and resilience, the kind of woman every British village seemed to have, yet only Kathy could fully embody. That success came late, and it cost her dearly. After marrying John Staff in 1951, Kathy gave up the stage to become a full-time wife and mother, a choice that often left her wondering, did I give up too much? The lifelong marriage was not without its stress. At one point, she even considered separation due to the crushing weight of family duties and restarting her acting career in middle age. She returned to TV through background roles at Granada, fighting for every line and every scene, while peers her age were already starring on West End stages. That frustration and self-doubt left her feeling as if she had been left behind by the whole world. After the death of her dear co-star Bill Owen, Compo, in 1999, Kathy was visibly shaken. She withdrew from the show, confessing in an interview that, "My heart's not in it anymore." When she later returned as Nora, it was a different Nora. Quieter, more somber, like the real woman learning to live with grief. The true tragedy struck in early 2008, when she was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Though in pain, she remained strong, filming her final episodes before passing away quietly at Willowwood Hospice beside the husband who held her hand through her last days. Kathy Staff's net worth at the time of her death was estimated at around £1 million, a humble sum for over 60 years of dedication. She was laid to rest in Dukenfield, where she was born, raised, voted, sang hymns, and lived fully as herself. Jane Freeman as Ivy. Shirley Ann Pithers, known professionally as Jane Freeman, was born on June 12, 1935, in Brentford, England. When she was 38 years old, she took on the role of Ivy, the stern, irritable cafe owner constantly scolding her husband Sid and the rowdy old man in Last of the Summer Wine. From 1973 to 2010, Freeman was one of only 2 actors to appear throughout the entire series, and her character Ivy became a symbol of sacrifice, responsibility, and quiet love that British audiences would never forget. In real life, Jane's story was filled with loss and inner turmoil. At just 9 years old, she lost her father in a train accident. Her mother remarried soon after, and Jane was forced to take on a new surname and live under a different identity, a lingering sense of never fully belonging anywhere, as she later admitted in rare interviews. In 1971, Freeman married director Michael Simpson, whom she met at the Birmingham Rep, in a typical artist's relationship, respectful but not without tension. A private woman, she rarely shared details about her personal life, but close friends said she struggled with loneliness after curtain call, especially as her husband gradually withdrew from theater while she remained caught in a whirlwind of work. And when Last of the Summer Wine officially ended in 2010, it was as if Jane had lost a part of her soul. In her final years, she was diagnosed with lung cancer, a disease that brought immense pain and physical decline. On March 9, 2017, Jane Freeman passed away at the age of 81, concluding the journey of a quietly powerful woman. Her net worth was estimated at around £1 million, a modest figure that nonetheless reflected a lifetime of quiet resilience and unwavering devotion. Frank Thornton as Herbert, truly, true love. Frank Thornton was born on January 15, 1921, in London. When he was 76 years old, he joined Last of the Summer Wine as Herbert, truly true love, a retired police officer nostalgic for the past, injecting tales of yesteryear into every whimsical tea outing with his oddball companions. Thornton brought a calm yet razor-sharp edge to the series, appearing regularly from 1997 to 2010 and becoming a refined emblem of the old-school acting class. Behind his composed exterior was a life marked by inner conflict. Frank initially studied insurance just to please his father, a strict traditionalist who wanted his son to have a respectable career. Only after repeated pleading did Thornton gain approval to attend drama school and change his path. That long-standing family disapproval left him with years of guilt, and despite later success, he once admitted, "Sometimes chasing a dream comes at the cost of drifting away from the people you love most." His marriage to actress Beryl Evans lasted nearly 70 years, an extraordinary feat in the entertainment industry. But even that bond was not without its trials. Early in their marriage, both were struggling to survive in the theater world. Financial stress, unemployment, and countless thankless roles led them to a period of silent separation. What Thornton later called the darkest chapter of my life, when I nearly lost both my family and my passion. Thankfully, they overcame it and witnessed each other's late career renaissance. Frank Thornton passed away peacefully in his sleep on March 16, 2013, at the age of 92. His net worth was estimated at around £2 million, a fitting reward for decades of quiet, steadfast service to the craft. Thora Hurd as Edie Pegden. Dame Thora Hurd was born on May 28, 1911, in Morecambe. When she was 75 years old, she joined last of the summer wine as Edie Pegden, the strict, principled wife striving to maintain order in the chaotic world of the trio's escapades. But Edie's sharp wit and calm authority weren't just acting. They reflected the real-life strength of Thora herself. Her life in the arts began literally on stage. At just 2 months old, she was carried into a play by her mother in a production managed by her father. Yet her path to success was not easy. Her father, also her harshest critic, strongly opposed her dreams of acting. He insisted she work at the local shop and scrutinized her every move in theater as if managing a risky investment. It took Thora nearly 30 years to gain recognition on the West End, all while living under the weight of never feeling good enough to please her own family. Her marriage to musician James Scott lasted 57 years but demanded constant sacrifice. When their daughter, actress Jeanette Scott, entered show business and later married singer Mel Torme, their family lived across time zones, cultures, and careers. Thora once said, "I worked to keep my job, my dignity, and sometimes to keep my family from falling apart." After her husband's death in 1994, she fell into depression, though the public never saw it. She kept smiling on screen, on stage, and on religious programs. Thora battled numerous health issues, heart surgery, hip replacements, arthritis, and ultimately spent her final years in a wheelchair. Still, she continued acting until age 91. Her final role was a sharp-tongued, immobile mother in the monologue The Last of the Sun, a character strikingly similar to the woman she had become. On March 15, 2003, Thora Hurd passed away from a stroke. Her funeral at Westminster Abbey was attended by more than 2,000 people. Her net worth was estimated at around £1 million. Modest for a dame and 3-time BAFTA winner. She lived to inspire, to teach people to laugh through sorrow, and to prove that sometimes the strictest supporting roles leave the deepest imprint. Bryan Wilde as Walter Foggy Doohurst. Bryan Wilde was born on June 13, 1927, in Lancashire. When he was 49 years old, he took on the role of Walter Foggy Doohurst in Last of the Summer Wine, a former military man trying to impose tactical order on his elderly friend's chaotic adventures. With a weary face, gentle voice, and a spirit of seriousness in absurdity, Foggy became a fan favorite, propelling Wilde to widespread recognition. But success hadn't come easily. During the 1950s and 60s, Bryan struggled quietly, stuck in nameless or forgettable roles. Behind the scenes, he was a soft-spoken, introspective man. According to close friends, He often experienced mild bouts of depression from feeling overlooked in the industry. His marriage was almost entirely private, partly due to his discretion and partly because his wife chose to remain out of the spotlight. His loneliness didn't stem from a lack of companionship, but from never quite feeling like he belonged in crowds. Even on Last of the Summer Wine, Wilde withdrew in 1985 due to unspoken disagreements with the producers. Although he returned in 1990, the bond was never the same. He later declined further offers and quietly retired after suffering from shingles and declining health. In January 2008, he suffered a fall at home. He never fully recovered and passed away in his sleep on March 20th of the same year. He was 80 years old. Bryan Wilde's net worth was estimated at around £1 million, mostly earned through television and voice work. Robert Fife as Howard Sibshaw. Robert Douglas Fife was born on September 25, 1930 in Kirkcaldy, Scotland. When he was 54 years old, he stepped into the role of Howard, the timid husband constantly under the watchful eye of his wife Pearl, always scheming to secretly meet his lover Marina. For 25 years, Howard's clumsy escapes became one of the show's comedic hallmarks, a character that made audiences laugh while quietly earning their sympathy. But behind the fumbling exterior was a life of resilience, sacrifice, and silent endurance. Fife's youth was marked by detours and disappointments. He originally studied English literature at the University of Edinburgh but dropped out to pursue acting, a decision that deeply disappointed his family, especially his father, a traditional clockmaker. Instead of a steady career, Fife chose to live hand-to-mouth, working in small theaters across Halifax, York, and Scarborough, sleeping backstage and slowly earning respect through minor roles. Those formative, grueling years shaped him into a man of few words and guarded emotions. His marriage to theater director Diana Rush lasted more than 60 years, a relationship that seemed unshakable, yet was not without strain. Both were in the industry, often living apart for extended periods, and at one point Fife had to choose between a major role and being present for the birth of his first son. Diana, sharp and commanding, directed several plays in which Fife performed. Friends described her as the real-life Pearl, always guiding, correcting, sometimes overwhelming. Still, their bond endured, rooted in a quiet, unspoken respect. In his final years, Fife battled chronic kidney disease, enduring painful treatments. In August 2021, he lost his wife of more than half a century. Just 1 month later, on September 15th, he passed away at the age of 90. They left behind 3 sons. His net worth was estimated at around £1 million, largely earned through television and film. Juliet Kaplan as Pearl Sibshaw. Marlene Juliet Kaplan was born on October 2, 1939, in Bournemouth. She became the perfect embodiment of Pearl Sibshaw, the strict, sharp-eyed wife constantly surveilling her husband, in Last of the Summer Wine when she was 46 years old in 1985. Pearl became Howard's delightful nightmare and a sweet source of nostalgia for millions of viewers. But behind that fierce gaze, Juliet Kaplan carried a lifetime of bitterness and survival. Her teenage years were a constant journey of uprooting and dislocation. She lived in South Africa, then New York, and returned to England, all before the age of 12. As the daughter of a Jewish sailor and a nurse, Juliet grew up surrounded by cultural tension and family instability. Early on, she turned to the stage as a way to claim control over her life. In 1958, when she was just 19 years old, she married Harold Hoser and had 3 children. But the marriage was cut short. Harold died in 1981, leaving Juliet a single mother at age 42. That was a period of emptiness and hardship, as she juggled parenting, survival, and holding on to her artistic identity. Pearl came into her life in 1985, a breakthrough role but also a burden. She once confessed, "Everyone remembers me as the wife who always doubted her husband, but no one asked why I understood that character so well." Juliet quietly battled a smoking addiction since she was 14, despite multiple attempts to quit. After being diagnosed with cancer, she continued performing, even touring solo in a one-woman stage show centered around Pearl. It was her farewell. On October 10th, 2019, Juliet Kaplan passed away at her home in Kent, just 8 days after her 80th birthday. Her net worth was estimated at £1 million, a modest amount compared to the love and admiration she received, but enough to reflect a life of true dedication. Jean Ferguson as Marina. Jean Ferguson was born on December 30th, 1944, in the village of Woolley, Yorkshire, and was widely beloved for her portrayal of Marina, the flirtatious platinum blonde lover in Last of the Summer Wine when she was 41 years old. Jean brought to life a character who was both ridiculous and magnetic, stealing the spotlight for 25 years. But behind the laughter lay a private life full of sorrow, solitude, and quiet struggles hidden behind the curtain. Jean moved around with her family during childhood, from England to Scotland, then back to Glamorgan, all before she was a teenager. That constant uprooting made her cling to the arts as a form of emotional stability. After graduating from Cardiff College of Music and Drama in 1965, she worked her way through the British theatre circuit, from Oldham Coliseum to touring shows, fighting for recognition among a sea of equally talented actresses. She shared her personal life with longtime partner Paul Jenkinson, a relationship that spanned 3 decades without marriage, but was filled with love. When Paul died in 2011, Jean was devastated. She withdrew, becoming more reserved, even though she continued acting in series like Doctors and Coronation Street. Those who knew her noticed a subtle change in her spirit. On November 14th, 2019, Jean Ferguson passed away at her home in London at the age of 74. Fans were especially shocked because her death occurred just 1 month after that of Juliet Kaplan, who played Pearl. The two women, who together formed the beloved triangle of Marina Pearl Howard, exited the world within weeks of each other, leaving an emotional void. Though Jean's net worth was estimated at just £1 million, the legacy she left was priceless. John Comr, as Sid. John Comr was born on March 1st, 1924, in Stretford, Lancashire. With his friendly face, unpretentious demeanor, and unmistakable northern accent, he quickly became a familiar figure on British television, especially through his role as Sid, the kindly cafe owner in Last of the Summer Wine from 1973 to 1983. Yet behind the easy smile and laid-back presence was a fierce, private battle. In the early 1980s, Comr was diagnosed with throat cancer, a disease that severely weakened his voice. In his final TV appearance, his speech had deteriorated so much that actor Tony Melody had to dub over his lines. For a comedic actor, losing his voice wasn't just the loss of a tool, it was the loss of his very identity. On February 11th, 1984, just 3 weeks shy of his 60th birthday, John Comr passed away. His death came while Last of the Summer Wine was still going strong, leaving a noticeable absence in the hearts of viewers. His funeral was held at Carlton Crematorium in Blackpool. John Comr's net worth was estimated at around £1 million, but his most enduring legacy wasn't monetary. When his wife Molly passed away in 2010, the family donated £245,000 to the hospital that had treated him. A deeply moving act of gratitude. Michael Bates as Sirill Blamir. Michael Hammond Bates was born on December 4, 1920 in British India. When he was 53 years old, he took on the role of Sirill Blamir in the comedy series Last of the Summer Wine, 1973 to 1975. With his dignified bearing and military air, Bates embodied the character of a stern, well-dressed ex-soldier who often clashed with the chaos of Compo, forming a delightfully odd trio. However, behind the spotlight lay tension and personal tragedy. In 1954, he married Margaret Chisholm and had 3 children, but his private life and extreme conservative views made him a controversial figure behind the scenes. His co-star Bill Owen, who played Compo, was a staunch leftist, the ideological opposite of Bates. Their heated arguments nearly derailed Last of the Summer Wine in its early days. In 1975, Bates's career took a dark turn when he was diagnosed with cancer. The illness forced him to step down from the widely beloved role of Blamir. In his final years, he withdrew from the public eye and faced his illness in silence. On January 11, 1978, Michael Bates died in Chelsea, London, at the age of 57. His net worth at the time of death was estimated at £1 million, a modest sum compared to the talent and legacy he left behind. Dora Bryan as Roz Utterthwaite. Dora Mae Broadbent, known by her stage name Dora Bryan, was born on February 7, 1923, in Southport, England. When she was 76 years old, she played Roz Utterthwaite in Last of the Summer Wine, a lively, charming older woman who brought a fresh breeze of humor to the small-town setting of the show. Though her career seemed full of applause and limelight, behind the scenes was a life of hardship and sorrow. After more than 50 years in theater and film, Dora gradually stepped away to care for her ailing husband, former cricketer Bill Lawton. She turned down multiple roles to remain by his side, a sacrifice that drained her physically and emotionally. After his death in 2008, Dora's health and spirit steadily declined. In her final years, mounting age and debt forced her to sell most of her possessions, keeping only a small flat with a sea view. Despite a lifetime of tireless artistic work, her net worth had dwindled to about £1 million. By 2013, she was in a wheelchair, living in a nursing home in Hove, suffering from Alzheimer's and heart failure, illnesses that ravaged both her memory and her strength. On July 23, 2014, Dora Bryan passed away at the age of 91. Her funeral was held at St. George's Church, Brighton, a place she had often visited while still in good health. Though she passed in quiet, her career and memory continue to live on in the hearts of her fans. Stephen Lewis as Clem Smiler Hemingway. Stephen Lewis was born on December 17, 1926, in Poplar, London. He was best known for his role as Clem Smiler Hemingway in Last of the Summer Wine from 1988 to 2007, when he was between 61 and 81 years old. With his sorrowful expression, weathered face, and gentle heart, Smiler brought audiences both laughter and compassion across 68 episodes. But behind the comedy was a life full of silence and sorrow. Before becoming an actor, Stephen had worked as a bricklayer and electrician and served in the Merchant Navy. A chance trip to the theater changed his path, from sea to stage. He rose to fame playing the strict Blakey in On the Buses, but that role came with a cost. He was heavily made up to look old at just 42, and the image stuck with him forever. In his later years, he retreated from public life due to declining health. Arthritis tormented him daily, while prostate cancer slowly wore him down in his final chapter. With a net worth of less than £1 million, he lived in a care home in Wanstead, London, alongside his sister Connie, unmarried, without children, and without a family of his own. Stephen Lewis passed away on August 12, 2015, at the age of 88. He is remembered not just for making us laugh, but for his long, quiet journey through adversity, illness, and solitude. Norman Wisdom as Billy Ingleton. Norman Wisdom, beloved as Britain's national comic, was born on February 4, 1915. When he was 89 years old, he made a surprise appearance in Last of the Summer Wine as Billy Ingleton, an eccentric, endlessly optimistic character styled in Norman's classic comedy tradition from the 1950s. But behind that silly grin was a life repeatedly shattered. Born into poverty, Norman's childhood was marked by beatings from his father, time in orphanages, and homelessness by the age of 13. He worked as a waiter, shoe shiner, soldier, and street singer before discovering his gift for comedy. His career exploded in the 1950s and 60s, making him a working-class icon and one of the only Western comedians adored in communist Albania. But life was never easy for an aging comic. Behind the curtains lay 3 failed marriages and many lonely nights in a house stripped of laughter. In old age, Norman battled Alzheimer's, a disease that stole not only his ability to perform, but his memories, too. By the end, he no longer knew who he was or recognized the roles that made him famous. Tragically, his net worth was only around £1.5 million, a humble figure compared to the enormous artistic legacy he left behind. Norman Wisdom died on October 4, 2010, at the age of 95, in a care home on the Isle of Man. Trevor Banister as Toby Malberry Smith. Trevor Banister, born on August 14, 1934, was a familiar face on British television, best loved for his role as Toby Malberry Smith in Last of the Summer Wine. When he took on the part in 2009, he was 73 years old, playing a charming, mischievous gentleman constantly swept into the trio's eccentric escapades. Toby stood out as the perfect old-school rogue, full of wit and refined mischief. But behind the screen's playful glint was a life shaped by unexpected turns. After rising to fame as Mr. Lucas in Are You Being Served?, Trevor began to feel his role fading into the background, ultimately stepping away in quiet frustration. Off-screen, he experienced heartbreak with the collapse of his marriage to actress Kathleen Kravos, leaving behind 3 sons and many years of solitude. Despite personal setbacks, he never stopped working, moving fluidly from stage to television, sitcoms to Doctor Who, bringing energy and heart even into his 70s. Banister lived modestly in Thames Ditton, Surrey, where he found joy in his small garden and warm conversations with his second wife, Pamela Carson. But fate struck without warning. On April 14, 2011, while tending to his garden, his favorite pastime, he suffered a fatal heart attack. His sudden passing at the age of 76 shocked friends and colleagues, especially as he had just attended the 90th birthday of his close friend Frank Thornton 3 months earlier. His net worth was estimated at around £1 million, a modest figure, but one that reflects a career built on humility, resilience, and quiet brilliance. Trevor Banister may not have shone like the brightest stars, but he was the warm glow in the quieter corners of the screen, where laughter and heart always met. The tragic stories behind Last of the Summer Wine don't just startle us, they make us cherish the laughter these stars gave us even more. Which moment from the show do you remember most? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more haunting and heartfelt stories from the world of cinema.